Good afternoon. Oh, let's try it again. Today is a momentous occasion. This is a happy thing. Good afternoon. All right, that is much better. So good afternoon and welcome to 71st Classical Middle School. I am Natasha Scott, Executive Director of Student Services. Today is a very exciting day. We have been working very, very hard behind the scenes to get to this moment leading up to right now. So, ladies, we got a lot to share, right? Yes, we do. So we're here to launch the Alongside app for middle and high school students in Cumberland County Schools. There are several special guests that I'd like to recognize, though, before we get started. If we have any of our board members with us today, I'd like to recognize them. We also have one of our cabinet members with us, Dr. Lindsay Whitley, Associate Superintendent. We have representatives from Fort Liberty. We also have our student services crew here, and most importantly, the media representatives. Thank you so much for being here and helping us to spread the word and let our students and our families know about the Alongside app. So help us to really get those numbers up as students sign up for this great resource. Priority 3 of our strategic plan, which is exceptional environments, it directs us to develop a behavioral and mental health framework. Part of that includes developing a series of school mental health initiatives. So over the past few years, actually, there have been several initiatives put in place across the district. And just to tell you about a few of those, for example, we have placed calm corners in all of our schools. A calm corner is a place where a student can go when they realize that their feelings are getting too high and they need a moment to just kind of reset, just kind of step back, gather themselves together, and work independently on self-regulation skills. We've also implemented our school behavioral health program in 35 of our elementary, middle, and high schools. The school behavioral health program, we work with 3 mental health providers, and these providers provide individual, family, and group counseling, medication management, consultation, and training. And that's significant because students are able to receive those services during the school day in the school building. So imagine the savings of instructional time, the cost and the burden of the parent of checking students out of school and checking them back in. So we're very proud of that resource, and we look forward to spreading that to all of our schools. We've also introduced things such as Sparks, which is a trauma-informed small group counseling program in our secondary schools. We're also implementing universal screening. The universal screening helps us to identify students who may need some additional supports that we may not know without the results of these screenings that we're doing in our schools. So as you can see, the Alongside app is just one more resource that Cumberland County Schools has invested in for the well-being of our students. So the app can be accessed on a computer or on a cell phone. It allows students to speak with a chatbot named Kiwi. Kiwi is cute as the dickens. Kiwi is a llama. I can't wait for you to see him. That is designed to provide immediate support to students. So Kiwi takes students through brief social emotional exercises designed by doctoral level clinicians. And these are smaller issues that students are experiencing. For the more severe issues like child maltreatment and suicide, Kiwi actually reaches out to an adult, whether that is 988, a school official, parent, whatever the need is. Kiwi reaches out to an adult. So students can also journal, they can watch self-help videos, and they can also use goal-setting tools as a part of the Alongside app. So again, the app does not replace the human connection. It is designed to work alongside our counselors, social workers, and psychologists. So next up, we have Dr. Elsa Fries, who is a licensed psychologist and the head of mental health at Alongside, and she's here to tell you about the history of the app. She's going to give you a little more details about how the app actually works, and she's going to use the Clear Touch here and give you a live demonstration of how to utilize the app and all that it has to offer to our students. Dr. Fries?
Hello, I am so incredibly excited to be here, and thank you, Dr. Scott, for that kind introduction. We founded alongside after the pandemic when we realized we were in a youth mental health crisis, but concurrently, only 15% of schools can find enough counselors to meet the rising need of students. So the founders of Alongside, who previously worked in ed tech, tackling learning and curriculum challenges, districts started coming to them and saying, we actually need more mental health support in addition to learning support. And so this kicked off over 100 interviews with students, counselors, admins, and really learning how can we best support students and work alongside great school districts like Cumberland. So universally, when we talked to kids, they came up with 3 things. 1, they wanted a safe and judgment-free space, which is actually incredibly hard to find in this digital world. They also wanted personalized support, including being able to talk in their preferred language, because we know that your first language or native language is usually your heart language. And they also wanted a trustworthy resource, because actually kids were telling us that I know social media doesn't have all the answers. And so I need a place to get information that I know is trustworthy and can really support me. For me personally, I was working up the road up at Duke as a clinician, but also as a research fellow in digital mental health technologies. And so I joined Alongside because I wanted to take the over 20 years of research that we have on digital mental health and actually get it into the hands of students. Because I myself was feeling that as a clinician, I could not meet the burden of need that I was seeing in outpatient settings. So when Cumberland students are using Alongside, they're going to find that safe and judgment-free zone. They're going to be able to get personalized tips from Kiwi, which I'm about to show you in just 1 minute. And all of these tips are written and crafted by our doctoral level clinicians. And as Dr. Scott mentioned, they're also going to be encouraged and directed to in-person supports as we want to work alongside counselors, principals, teachers, and administrators. So I'd love to take a second and jump in and show you a little bit about Alongside. So, most of the time, kids are going to be engaging with our little friendly llama here, Kiwi. And this is available 24/7. And so this could be a student who's sitting in homeroom who just got in a fight with a friend. It could be actually in one of your calm down corners, taking a moment and taking some deep breaths with Kiwi. Or even as you're waiting to get in-person support with a counselor. So for today, I'm going to pretend that I'm very nervous about a test. This feels a little bit like a test right now. So I'm going to type in. So Kiwi said, hey Elsa, worried about that test? I can help. How's it been going? I have this freaking test coming up. And you'll notice I'm not a good speller, but Kiwi understood. Tests can be super tricky, but you've got this. Just like a superhero facing big challenges, I am here to help. So in some cases, students might also want to see a whole list of things that we can. And so for today's demonstration, I just wanted to show you a list so we can help with things like current events, grades and tests, the future, school, body images, issues, all things that teens are struggling with on a day-to-day basis. It's totally okay to find tests and grades a bit tricky. Remember, doing your best is what counts. I'm here for you. I want to learn ways to overcome my fear of failure. I know the fear of failing or fear in general can be very overwhelming. I want you to know it's normal to respond. We all fail sometimes, and it's okay. Fear is a very interesting emotion because its purpose can be to protect you. Right now, it seems to be trying to protect you for failure or thinking about what happened, but focusing on fear can have the opposite effect and create things like procrastination, not thinking clearly, or forgetting things you know. That resonate with anyone in this room? Just checking. I myself can get stuck in fear and not wanting to move forward. So as we go through here, Kiwi is gently going to guide the student through overcoming things. You'll see we use funny images and GIFs. One of my favorite roles that I get to take on personally is we have an amazing group of teen advisors who help us curate all of this content. And so I'm not cool, so I don't know what's funny or interesting, but thankfully we have kids who are telling us. So I'll pause here. The goal of Kiwi is to find one small action step that students can take towards coping with whatever is going on, finding additional support, or working through the problem that they are facing. And so this can be anything like setting a healthy bedtime routine, talking to a friend they might have conflict with, or even creating an upbeat playlist to help you boost your mood when you're going through a rough time. And I will hand it back to you, Dr. Scott, but before I do, I just wanted to say thank you so much for your amazing leadership and always carefully evaluating what will be helpful to your students. And alongside, we are just so incredibly delighted, excited, and grateful to be one of the many ways that Cumberland County Schools is supporting students.
Thank you so much, Dr. Freeze. And that was a great segue. We did not take it lightly when we looked at this program and thought about how would this fit in Cumberland County Schools. So we too did some little mini focus groups here. We had kids to actually try it out. We had staff to try it out, counselors, social workers, psychologists. We wanted to see if we were satisfied with the response that Kiwi would give regardless of what we threw at it. So we also had assistant principals, students, parents, all of these folks to give us feedback, again, because we wanted to make sure we were doing something that parents would feel good about their students talking to and interacting with Kiwi. And so next, what I like to do is have you to actually hear a parent perspective, a student perspective, and then also the perspective from one of our counselors, Ms. Shavonda Williams. So we're going to start with Ms. Najeri Fikes, followed by little Miss Jessica Fikes, who, despite her pint size, is actually a sophomore at 71st High School. And then we'll follow it up with Ms. Williams.
Do I need to go to the podium? Yes, ma'am. Good afternoon. Thank you, Dr. Scott. As a parent, one of the things that I'm always looking at is how can I be better? And I was talking to just a friend yesterday casually and thinking about ways that we can be better. It is admitting that I don't have all of the answers. One of the things that I discovered during COVID actually was that my daughter and I, while very similar, are different in some regards. And during that period, I needed to find some outlets for her. And it was me reaching out and figuring out what's going to help her achieve, what's going to help her be the best Jessica that she could possibly be. And I look at alongside the same way. It is providing that space for those things that she may not want to tell me about. And I'm fine with that. I mean, she's the youngest and my oldest is going to be 30. So I've been parenting for a long time. And one of the things that is definitely true is that no child is exactly alike. They're not our carbon copies. They don't necessarily think the same way we do. And I think that we have to applaud the district for being forward thinking. I trust that they're going to use these resources wisely, just as we send our kids to school and leave them here for the day. I trust that the app that is provided is also going to do the same thing. When my daughter tried it out, I was sort of waiting because, you know, they're teenagers and all you can hear is, it's corny, I don't like it. But she embraced it. She was ready to try different things. We've had hosts of things happen in our own family with severe illness of people. I had major surgery during this period. And it's comforting to know that she doesn't have to wait to maybe see a counselor. She may not necessarily need to see a counselor, but she can say, let me put this in here. Let me use this journal prompt or something along those lines that helps her have agency over taking care of herself. You know, she's 16, she'll be going to college before we know it. Having that agency to take care of yourself, your mental health, your physical health, it's very important. And I'll close by saying my mom is a social worker. She's good for giving nuggets. And one of the nuggets that I got was, when you're working with kids, remember what you were lacking. Remember what you were missing. Now, I graduated from high school in 1990, and I went to school with a typewriter. So clearly, clearly there was no AI, there was no internet or anything of that sort. But I look back at, you know, a divorce happening in my family, my grandmother being very, very ill. But I was an AG kid who made good grades, and not a soul ever checked on me, because I was pretty, you know, doing okay. And I'll never forget, my AP English teacher says to me, when I didn't make junior marshal, I knew you were in trouble, but I didn't think it was that bad. Now, be clear, it really wasn't that bad. However, no one ever said, are you okay? We didn't really talk about stressors at that point. Unless you were in severe crisis or harming yourself or, you know, really acting out, there wasn't a lot of talk about mental health, you know, 34 years ago. So I have to say that it is so encouraging now that we're providing a resource for students, for parents, to have that, to close the gap, so to speak. And it's not cushy, she's not gonna get straight A's because I said it, but it is an honest depiction as a parent. I don't mind saying if I think something is ridiculous, and I'm super excited. I hope parents will trust the district. Look at it for yourself if you're uncomfortable about it. So I'm definitely going to be alongside cheerleader over here, so I'm glad for the opportunity, and I hope that people will take advantage of it.
Now, Miss Jessica, you have actually talked to the llama.
Yes, I have.
All right, so come on up here and tell us about that.
Hello, my name is Jessica Fikes. I'm a sophomore at 71st High School, and recently I have gotten the opportunity to try out the Alongside app. What I will say is that app has definitely helped, and I feel like it can be very helpful to the community and the students, because you always have those couple of kids where it's like they're never really going to talk in class. They're very silent, very reserved. The app can be very helpful with them getting their feelings out, because they might not feel comfortable talking to somebody like an actual person, but the app might be helpful because it kind of gives them a safe space to talk about what issues they might have. For me, the app has definitely helped with my mental health. Like my mom said, we've had a lot of severe illness in my family regarding several people, and it was a rough period for a while, but we managed to get through it like normal. But my family has always been my safe space and the people I want to talk to if I'm ever feeling down or anything. And and the app just gave me another place to talk about my feelings aside from just talking to my mom or my grandmother or my sister. And I'm very grateful that I had the opportunity to try it out. But with being a teenager, it's definitely gonna be very hard because you have all of these responsibilities. Like if you have siblings, gotta help your siblings do this, gotta help your siblings do that, and it's a lot. But you also have school, you might have a job, you might be in clubs. Everything just starts to pile on top of each other, and at one point it just becomes overwhelming. The app is really helpful with staying organized. If you talk to the llama, it might give you like a goal. It says you might want to, when do you want to complete this? Do you want to complete this by the next day, the next week? next month, it doesn't matter. It'll have it listed, and then it will give you reminders to letting you know, hey, you might want to remember that you have this thing to do. And it's really helpful. It's definitely helped me with my schoolwork and getting everything in on time. And it's just really helpful, and I love it, so to speak. But I'm glad I got the opportunity to do it. I'm also grateful that I was able to come back here because I went to this middle school. And I just want to recognize Dr. Tillman, Ms. Fulcher, and Ms. Williams, because they definitely helped me get to where I am now, and I couldn't have done it without them. So I'm very grateful to have them in my life.
Ms. Williams, I couldn't give you a better introduction than that. Please keep laughing, but this is something that I don't normally do. So I'm going to be honest. When I first heard my name was mentioned in the conversations for this app and this event, I did think, let me go to Kiwi and ask her how could I get out of this event. Now, as you can see, I am still here. But what Kiwi did give me was some positive affirmations and some other conversation that needed to get me to get to where I am now. I'm gonna try. I'm a real life school counselor with middle schoolers, so understand how that is. The middle school kids have been middle schooling all day today. And with that, so in particular with this particular app, I was thinking about what are the benefits of this app for our kids. And the things that I came up with was that it closes the gap as well as it meets the students where they are. And so when we hear these conversations, we think, now what does that mean? Because you can hear it, but you don't know the action behind it. So when we're talking about the middle school kids, the teenagers, the pre-teenagers, all of the above, the phone is their best friend, right? So they eat with it, they sleep with it, they drink with it. That's it, you know? So when they want advice, where they're going is they're going to social media. They're going to the memes, they're going to what we call YouTube University, they're going to their friends. All of those particular avenues are not evidence-based. And a lot of them are opinions. And so I felt like if we have an app that is focused on giving them evidence-based results, it would work for them a little bit better. So it's almost like meeting them where they are. The other part to it is closing the gap. So for me, I always try to figure out, okay, I have students, we have a couple scholars. So one of them may be very, very, very vocal. They would yell down the hall if they see you, hey, Miss Williams. You know, if you know what they feel, they're going to tell you how they feel right then, there, and you don't have to guess. But then we have other scholars who may be reserved. They may be, you know, in the corner to the point where they have social anxieties. They may have some cultural differences where, you know, they can't talk to people. Even when I grew up, and I know I'm of some age, it was in my house that we couldn't come out and we could not tell what's going on inside of the house. So we didn't have that avenue for an app like this where maybe we can't speak to that person, but at least we can go to the app and get our feelings out in a way that we couldn't get before. So I think for that reason, those particular students who can't verbalize per se what's going on, they can go to the app and then, you know, get the help that they need. Thank you.
All right, so we just had a little switcheroonie over here with our microphone. We're going to keep trucking right along. So for the next 15 minutes or so, we want to open it up so that we can respond to any questions that the media has for us about the app. Yes, sir.
Can you talk a little bit about the confidentiality of the app? Students will obviously be sharing various things. Who has access to it? How does the confidentiality work?
All right. So Dr. Freeze, you want to tag team this one with me? All right. So when students are talking to the app, as soon as they log on, one of the first things that Kiwi lets students know is that what they say in the app is confidential, except if they are talking about they're going to harm someone or they're harming themselves. And those are the same rules that we have as counselors, social workers, and psychologists, because the number one rule is to keep kids safe. So we want it to be a safe space. We want them to share, but we also want them to understand up front and from an ethical perspective that these are kind of the rules and the parameters for what you do if you come into one of our offices with a live person, and the same thing happens with Kiwi. In the app itself, it does have access to some reporting features, and we will be using our student services staff. Again, those are counselors, social workers, and psychologists to monitor the activity of our students through the app. So as professionals, we can actually see the phrases that students are actually using. We can see who's using the app and the reasons. And we want to know that because, again, we're monitoring. Not only do we want to make sure that we made a good investment, but we also want to know, are there students that we need to provide some additional follow-up to? Are there things happening in the school that we need to follow up on? And it's just good information that we can use for other programming type purposes.
I have a question for the student. Oh, you enough more to answer that?
I was going to give Dr. Freeze the opportunity to add anything more about the confidentiality piece.
Dr. Scott did an amazing job explaining everything. The one other thing I will just add is that we follow all state and district level policies around data security. So from alongside, we're never going to sell your students' data. We're never going to share that. This is to really help and support kids and provide that safe space.
Thank you.
Now, I want to leave it sound to the students. I'm going to bring my microphone up here and have them come back up here. If you give me the wrong answer, I'm going to give you 12 volts. No, it's only 9. And you've already answered the question, but I just want to make sure you sound good on TV. Click that on your thing right there. And if you discover it, I get 15%, okay?
Can I get a little help with this?
Here, let me do it for you. Just click right here. Then we're going to take it off you too, okay? That's fine. Just sit right there. We'll get you. Let's start off with your first name
Jessica
and last name.
Fikes,
And spell both things for me.
Jessica Fikes.
All right, no more trick questions. So you gave a really good explanation of why this is important to you. So I just want you to reiterate that. You use the app. What makes adults think that teenagers and young folks will use it?
I would say once they've heard that more kids have definitely tried the app, it'll make more sense for them to show it to their own children. Because as my mom said, I was kind of skeptical at first with trying it. But when I saw what it was like and how the app actually works, I really enjoyed it. It definitely helped me stay organized, keep my mental right. And overall, it's a really good thing. It's very helpful with wanting to have an outlet with something. So students being able to have an outlet, it makes this a lot easier because a lot of kids feel like they're not heard enough by other people at one time, and it can be very stressful. So with this, it feels very, I guess, I can't think of the word for it.
Well, but you've had kind of a tough time with the family. We're talking about that. Did you talk to the app about that specifically? Or?
I have.
And how did it help?
The app has responded me with ways of calming myself down. One time, oddly enough, I was at school and I started having a panic attack, and my best friend happened to be there with me, and she was just checking on me, making sure I was okay, and it was fine. And then I got a little alone time later, and I started using the app, and the app gave me ways to help calm myself down, keep it off of my mind, and just stay solid for like a couple of hours. And then I was able to go back on with my day and be normal.
And just outline some of the tragedy that was going on in your family.
I was mostly stressed out because at the time my mother had just had a surgery. My grandmother, unfortunately, has been diagnosed with breast cancer. So we've been dealing with that a lot for the last couple of months. But that has definitely taken a toll on my mental health. But the app has definitely helped it get better over the last, I would say, about 4 months. 4 or 5 months, give or take. But it's definitely helped keep my mind off of it, and my grandmother seems to be in very good spirits right now, so I'm very grateful.
Give her a round of applause. She's taking my job. I believe the other reporter has another question for you. I'm done. Thank you.
The other question I have for you, while you were using the app in school, did other students ask you what you were doing or what you were using? Did they wear it? What was their response?
Very seldomly did somebody ask me what exactly I was doing, and when they did, I would tell them what it was for. But a couple of my friends were like, "Oh my God, that sounds so cool. Whenever the app finally launches, send us the link and we'll try it out." So I was really grateful to be able to have people say that they were willing to try it, and their parents weren't making them do it.
Was it on your phone or was it a laptop?
I used my phone for it because when Dr. Scott contacted me or my mom, we tried it out on our phones, and I was like, this seems kind of cool. So I was definitely willing to share it with other people as long as they were willing to try it out for themselves.
So as far as being at 71st, there's rules about using your cell phone at different times. Did it make it difficult to,
It did.
what if you're in the middle of having a meeting, you know?
It did. It definitely did make it difficult, but I got lucky with certain teachers where it was like they wouldn't assign too much work, or they wouldn't like have strict rules about having my phone out. So with the few teachers I did have whose classes were surprisingly easy, I didn't have as much work to do in the class, so I normally got done early. And whenever I felt like I was having like some form of a panic attack, or if I felt like I needed somebody to talk to, I would just simply pull out my phone, probably go somewhere where it's somewhat secluded, and just use the app so I wouldn't really have a lot of people bothering me at the time, because when I found out about the app, it was I was in a little bit of a stressful time period, but now I'm more comfortable using it outside of, like, around other people. So I've definitely gotten more used to it, and I really want other people to be able to have the same kind of help that it's given me.
I would just add to that, I certainly can't top it, but I would just add that our technology department is making the app available on all of the student devices. So students will not have to be in class in a cell phone, because different schools have different policies about when and how they can use the phone, but they can't access it on a computer and still have access to all of the features. So it'll be there for them as well.
And as far as the data that's collecting, your ability to use it for other situations, problem solving that kind of thing, where is that stored? What does it take something like that to do? Who monitors that? Is it the school counselor? Is it everybody in the world? As far as like, when I say everybody, meaning all school officials, what are you going to do with that data?
Yep, so as I mentioned before, at our schools, we have what's called a Student Services PLC. That's a professional learning community that consists of our counselor, social worker, psychologist, certainly an administrator has access to that. During that PLC, they look at data for all of our programs, really, particularly those programs in the area of student services, like school behavior health, like Alongside. You use that time to identify students who could use the service. Is it actually being utilized? Are there problems that you need to troubleshoot? Are there issues that you need to follow up on? So the reports, there's a dashboard that's actually a part of Alongside. So let's see, last week, probably on 2 dates last week, and we have another date coming up on the 21st, each principal was asked to designate a school team that would be responsible for rolling out Alongside at the school, and those staff persons have access to that dashboard. So certainly student services staff, but there's a designated team by the principal who is also looking at that data. Again, because we want to make sure that we've made a good investment, and that's how we'll know, do we need to increase the marketing? Are students using it a lot? If they're not using it at all, what else can we do? Why are they not using it? Are there any concerns with how students are using it or when it's using it? It's a new tool, so sometimes you have to go through a little growing pains like cell phones and that kind of thing, but you put all those kind of structures in place so that you can work through those types of issues.
logged in as a student, so I don't have my dashboard.
All right. Any other questions?
Did you say when it's gonna roll out to all schools?
Right now.
Today.
Right now, yep. So on our Cumberland County School website, we have created a landing page specifically for the Alongside app. From that website, parents can find information about the app itself, how to use it, but they'll also find an electronic permission form. So students are required to have permission from their parent in order to utilize the app. If they're not able or don't want to do an electronic form, there's also a paper version of the form that parents can download, fill it out, and send it back to the school. Once a parent provides permission for that student, then the vendor at that point will give the student access. So right now. So we are really, really looking forward to what you share on the news tonight to help us get the word out so we can start seeing those numbers come up and get this resource in the hands of students really as quickly as possible. Any other questions? All right, then with that said, this brings us to the end of our briefing, but I'd like to thank everyone for coming. I'd like to give a very special thanks to Dr. Elsa Fries with Alongside, Ms. Najiri Fikes, our parent representative. She's also a family ambassador. Little Miss Jessica Fikes from 71st High School, an alumna of 71st Classical Middle School. Whoop, whoop! And school counselor extraordinaire, Miss Shavonda Williams. But I hope you have more applause in you. I'd also like to acknowledge Dr. Quisha Tillman for her leadership, the assistant principal, Ms. Gika, and the staff at 71st Classical Middle School for hosting this briefing today. Thank you very much for allowing us to be here. And one last note for our media representatives, Dr. Fries, Ms. Fikes, Jessica, Ms. Williams, and myself, we are all available for interviews if you like. Jessica will also be available at the table here in the back with continuing to manipulate and demonstrate how to utilize the app. So if you would like to do any of those things, then please join us. And again, thank you to everyone for coming out and enjoy the rest of your day.